7 years after the soul switch, I found a pair of black stockings with white stains in my wife's bag. This is just an accident. Do you have to pretend to be depressed and self-harm? If you continue to be so unreasonable, we might as well get a divorce, Camille said disdainfully. I leaned back against the hospital bed, looking at the bandages wrapped around my wrist, deep in thought. Damn it, how did I become such a loser in 7 years? Desperately seeking death for love? Am I out of my mind? The world is so big. There are all kinds of women out there. Divorce. I must divorce. Fine. Let's get a divorce. Faced with the woman I adored at 25, I only found her annoying at 18. I rubbed my dizzy head and said, "Let's get a divorce once I'm discharged from the hospital. I'll notify you then." What? What did you say? Camille's proud demeanor shifted to one of shock as she looked at me. Is this woman hard of hearing? I said I want a divorce. I casually opened a bag of salt for chicken legs on the cabinet and started chewing on it, as if nothing was wrong. We haven't even discharged yet, so your urgency is useless. Don't worry. I won't cling to you. You're just a cheap shoe. I don't need to humiliate myself for you. Camille frowned at me. Carl, what are you playing at again? Haven't I already said it was an accident? Do you find it amusing to dwell on this little insult to my dignity? I looked up in confusion. She cheated. Made the 25-year-old me lose my mind. And even ended up in the hospital after cutting her wrist. Now she was here, pretending to be innocent and trying to pin the blame on me. I scratched my itchy nose and asked, "Are you stupid?" Camille was momentarily taken aback, seemingly unable to believe she had just heard me curse her. I focused on eating the chicken leg, ignoring her. After eating most of it, I seriously asked, "Can I ask you a question?" Camille, visibly annoyed, replied, "How many times do I have to tell you for you to believe me? Claude and I are only business partners. We occasionally keep in touch for socializing. I got drunk yesterday, couldn't drive. And since it was close to his house, I stayed there for the night. Do you understand? I really don't get why you're making such a big deal out of this." I listened blankly as she yelled. She was indeed unreasonable. Logically, I should have been cursing her out. But I only wanted to ask if she brought me food today. After lying there for a dying night, I was getting a bit hungry. I thought I'd eat well before scolding her. But before I could say anything, she had already lost her temper. Only worthy of playing low-tier mindless heroes. I quietly opened an app to order takeout. Camille looked at me suspiciously. "Did you even hear what I just said?" I sucked on the chicken bone. "Can you get me 2 bottles of water? I'll pay you for your trouble." "Carl, I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Can you stop being unreasonable?" Camille was getting anxious. "Patience, need rest. Family members shouldn't make loud noises." The nurse pushed the door open and frowned, reminding us. Camille shut her mouth. After the nurse finished a series of basic checks, she specifically advised Camille to talk to me calmly and not to provoke me. I just stared at Camille. "I know I'm handsome, but you don't have to stare at me like that. Right?" I shrugged. "You." Camille seemed at a loss for words. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "Maybe we both need some space. You should rest. I'll come see you tomorrow." Camille left. I lay in bed, bored, with the bandages on my wrists smelling of disinfectant not pleasant at all. I couldn't figure out how the 25-year-old Carl had become so extreme. It clearly wasn't worth it. I sighed and casually brushed my hair back, only for 2 silver strands to fall into my hand. I froze and turned to look out the window just as the rain began to pour. Raindrops pattered against the window, and my shadow reflected back my handsome face, revealing deep weariness. A sharp pain pierced my heart. Memories of Camille flooded my mind. These were the memories of 25-year-old Carl. "Camille, how many times have I told you that it's not hard to keep your distance from Claude? Can't you stop being so unreasonable? Claude and I are just doing business. Isn't it normal to socialize? As my husband, you should understand me instead of being suspicious all the time. Aren't you tired of this business? Is it necessary to go to his house for that? Would you find torn black stockings in your bag if it were just business?" "Camille, do you take me for a fool?" "Carl, Camille pointed at 25-year-old Carl's nose. Can't you be a bit more rational? I've explained it before, it was just that I was too drunk to drive and happened to stay over because it was close. As for what happened, no one wanted it to occur. But since it has happened, can't we just accept it? Do you really want to keep hounding me about this? Yeah, I want to pursue this to the end. Your life. If you get drunk from socializing, call me, and I'll be there for you, even if I'm working late. Hiring a driver is not difficult. But why did you have to sneak into another man's house? Why try to hide it from me after being with Claude? You clearly said you only loved me before. Be clear, Camille. Just tell me the truth. 25-year-old Carl shook Camille by the shoulders, his eyes filled with anger and anxiety. His slightly red, tear-filled eyes had lost their sanity. It was evident that adult Carl had become neurotic due to long-term relationship problems, developing depression and anger. But Camille turned a blind eye, treating him as if he were being unreasonable. In fact, she struck at him using the feelings he cared about the most. She said, Carl, your love for me is truly cheap and lowly. You always restrict my freedom but never understand or accept me. I don't need a relationship like that. What I want is freedom and independence. But obviously, you can't give me that. We might as well get a divorce. Let's divorce. Right now. My chest felt heavy. It was like a large stone was blocking my heart. I couldn't breathe. Carl, 25, felt a wave of helplessness as tears welled in his eyes. He had just experienced the most painful betrayal. I couldn't help but wonder what I saw in Camille for the future. What charm did a woman, who didn't know her boundaries and was ambiguous with other men, hold that made me infatuated? At this moment, I couldn't see any redeeming qualities in Camille. I would even be better off grabbing any random woman off the street. It was infuriating. If 25-year-old Carl couldn't let go, then let 18-year-old Carl take over. I lay in the hospital for a few days, and the doctor prescribed some medication before sending me home. Camille sent her assistant to pick me up. Camille has been quite busy lately and couldn't make it herself. So I came. Mr. Chen, please bear with me. The assistant spoke respectfully. I could tell without a doubt that she wasn't busy, just indifferent. But since the assistant was polite and sincere, I had no reason to refuse. My dissatisfaction with Camille shouldn't be taken out on someone unrelated to the situation. I didn't say much, just acknowledged her with a hum and went home with the assistant. Camille's house was extravagantly decorated, not at all to my taste. I couldn't help but think, have I become so pathetic that I can't even comment on the decor of the house? What kind of miserable life is this? After the assistant settled me in, she went back to the company. I had a simple bowl of noodles by myself and spent the afternoon idly. Camille finally returned late at night. I was in the guest room, contemplating the divorce process. It was pitiful that at my young age, I had to consider divorce before even getting married. While I was sorting things out, my door suddenly opened. Camille appeared in a lace nightgown. Why are you in the master bedroom? I kept my eyes glued to my phone screen and didn't look up. Since we're getting divorced, it doesn't seem right to sleep in the master bedroom. Camille frowned. She walked in, pulled my blanket aside, and sat on my bed. What's going on? Is she expecting me to fulfill my marital duties? Before I could say anything, Camille leaned over and kissed my lips. I was shocked and jumped off the bed, grabbing a tissue to wipe my mouth. Are you out of your mind? You just got done with someone else and come to me? Are you crazy? Camille's eyes widened in surprise, and she sat still on the bed, filled with astonishment and confusion, as if questioning why. Despite her advances, I still felt disgusted. Why was I being so ungrateful? Carl, are you disgusted with me? Camille asked, her face incredulous, as if she fully expected me to give her a reason why I wasn't disgusted and my reluctance was justified. Are you blind? Can't you tell? I think you're dirty. Obviously, I rolled my eyes impatiently. What an obvious surprise. I'm your wife. How dare you find me disgusting? Camille countered. Let me clarify something first, I said, gathering my patience. You'll like that guy named you, and I don't like you anymore. So, let's divorce peacefully. Didn't you say you wanted a divorce before? Right? You know what I mean. What do you mean? Camille glared at me. Are you trying to pressure me with divorce? No, I sighed, feeling exhausted. Why was talking to Camille so difficult? I took a deep breath and asked, I don't want to argue with you. I just want to know, if I want to sleep in the guest room, do you have to cling to me here? Camille threw a pillow at me in frustration. This is my house. Where I sleep is my freedom. Fine. I nodded and hurriedly ran to the master bedroom, locking the door. What a fool, isn't the master bedroom more comfortable than the guest room? As I lay in the big bed, I recalled what Camille had just said. This is her house? What about me? Don't I have a house? Is 25-year-old Carl this poor? The more I thought about it, the more exhausted I felt. And I fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, I woke up early, intending to eat breakfast and then go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with Camille. As I walked downstairs, I saw Camille eating a sandwich. She handed me a piece. Ma just made it. I glanced at it and replied, I'm not eating. We had been married for several years. Yuchi didn't even know I was allergic to eggs. Carl, I've already made a concession. Don't be ungrateful. Camille's tone had a hint of warning. I was about to retort when a sudden sharp pain shot through my head, and memories flooded back. Camille, are you coming back for dinner tonight? No, I've social engagements. I've things to discuss with Claude. More about Claude? Why do you have so much to talk about with him? If I told you, you wouldn't understand. It's all business. Camille, I made many of your favorite dishes today. Ma is off today. Woman owes food pairing. You don't know what you're doing. So don't mess it up. Camille, my birthday is tomorrow. Why don't we go out to eat? Why did you leave the eggs behind? The Uma worked hard to cook for us. I told you before, I'm allergic to egg. Why are you being so picky about a meal? If you don't want to eat. I panted, looking at Camille. What are you pretending for? Don't think I don't know your sickness is all an act. Camille bit into her sandwich and shot me a glance. It's just a sandwich. Don't make a fuss. I don't like immature and stubborn people. I smiled bitterly. You eat tomato beef noodles. Love drinking bayberry juice. Hate lotus root and yam. I remember all your preferences. What about mine? Do you remember? Camille paused. Do you remember what I like? Do you remember what I hate? I kept pressing her. I might not remember, but you don't even know I'm allergic to egg. Camille tightened her grip on the armrest of the chair. Seeing this, came over to mediate. Mr. Cheng, you can't blame the lady entirely. She's just been too busy and overlooked things. And what about you? I've mentioned I'm allergic to eggs, right? Yet you prepare meals that mostly contain eggs because Camille likes them. Or you just care less too? In the end, I have no say in this house. No one cares about me or respects me. I feel like a guest living here. Always uneasy. Camille, open your eyes and see, is there still a need to continue this marriage? Or to put it another way, do you think I can endure being ignored and neglected any longer? I stood up. I owe it to anyone, especially you. But Camille, you might not owe it to everyone, especially me. Camille's gaze flickered, as if she was desperate to find a reason to deny what I had just said. But when she realized that wouldn't work, she shifted into her usual unreasonable mode. Yes, I admit I have been neglectful, but don't you have any faults? I looked at Camille and couldn't help but laugh. Forget it, talking to you is like casting pearls before swine. Let me know if you need any further modifications or assistance. I initially wanted to help 25-year-old Carl vent his frustrations, but Camille just didn't understand human language. It's not that I didn't want to help. I simply couldn't. When Camille heard the phrase playing music to a cow, she was about to explode when the doorbell rang. She suppressed her anger and went to open the door. And it turned out to be Claude. Claude, what are you doing here? I was impulsive a few days ago. I'm here to apologize today. Claude brought in some gift boxes and, seeing me, smiled. You're here too. I chuckled. This is my home. It's normal for me to be here. But you found your way here. Which makes me laugh. Claude is a guest. Tone it down. Why are you being polite to him? I walked over and took all the gift boxes from Claude's hands. Since you're here, do you want me to help you both move a bed too? Carl, Camille shouted angrily. Why shout so loudly? I can hear just fine. I tapped my ear. I know Mr. Chang is hostile towards me, which is normal. I'm here just to apologize and not for anything else. Don't say that. Once I get a divorce from Camille, you can take over. After that, you can do whatever you want. It won't matter to me. I patted Claude on the shoulder, my smile fading instantly, but as of now, I'm still the owner of the house. Mr. Key, don't come too close, or I won't let you off easily. Got it? You'd better leave while things are still decent. Claude's face turned pale. And Camille didn't look too pleased either. Everyone was burning with anger except me, who found this amusing. Looks like Mr. Chang doesn't welcome me. Miss Lin, I'll come back another day, Claude said awkwardly, stepping back outside. Camille glared at me and questioned, are you satisfied now? Because I ended up in the wrong bed. You've held a grudge until today and even scared away my business partner. What do you want? Yes, I made a mistake, but you can't keep pushing my limits, right? Let's take a step back. What if I did sleep with Claude on purpose? Is it abnormal to cheat occasionally? Don't you think that eventually you get tired of the same person? I nodded. Yeah, you're right. So when are we getting a divorce? I'm quite anxious. Camille narrowed her eyes, impatient. Are you still sulking about this? You should know when to stop. I grinned helplessly. I really doubt you can understand human language. I must have run into a rare breed here. Did I become a cursed bear? What did you say? Camille rolled her eyes at me. I don't want to waste my time arguing with you. I need to go to the company. I'm giving you 1 day to reflect at home, think it through, and come back to apologize to me tonight. With that, Camille left, leaving me bewildered. Seriously, what was there to reflect on? Why did she leave without a word? Shouldn't we at least start with the divorce first? I was extremely bored, lying on the sofa, scrolling through videos. Carl, oh Carl, you left in style, leaving a mess for me to clean up. I'm only 18. My wonderful life had just begun. And now I'm forced to watch this fool throw a tantrum every day while thinking about how to get a divorce. I held half a watermelon, on the verge of tears. Suddenly, I received a phone call. A cheerful voice came through the line. Carl, there's a class reunion tomorrow. You have to cut. Who? No way. I haven't contacted you for a few months. And you're pretending not to know me. You're holding a grudge, aren't you? I scratched my head. The voice sounded somewhat familiar. Dante? I guessed. You brat. Using a question to address me? Damn it, Dante exclaimed. Then said, I'll come pick you up tomorrow. About that, I hesitated. I originally planned to get a divorce today, but since Camille left without a word, I didn't want to directly confront her at her company in this phase. I had to postpone it until tomorrow. However, this would conflict with the reunion. It's not easy to gather everyone this time. Dana is coming too. It's a rare occasion, so don't spoil it. I struggled for a long time but finally agreed. Okay, fine. I'll definitely come tomorrow. At the office, Camille was organizing contracts. Her assistant knocked and entered. Camille. Mr. Key said he wants to take you out for dinner tomorrow and discuss the project for the land in the eastern suburbs. Clock. Yes. Without looking up, Camille waved her hand. Got it. Just as the assistant was about to leave, Camille called out to her again. Wait. The assistant turned. Puzzled. What is it? Camille? Help me push all the meetings for tomorrow afternoon and book me a restaurant. Camille closed the contract. Tomorrow is my wedding anniversary with Carl. What about the project in the eastern suburbs? Not urgent. Claude will only choose me as the partner. Carl has been throwing tantrums lately. And I thought about it. Maybe it's because I haven't paid attention to our wedding anniversary. He probably doesn't care about my relationship with Claude anymore. He's just using this as an opportunity to demand something from me. All men are the same. They just need a little sweetness. But Camille, hasn't Mr. Chang always calmed down after a few days? Do you really need to coax him specifically? Camille sighed, pinching her brow. I don't want to, but he's been really annoying these days. Even suggested getting a divorce. I can ignore him. I don't know what's wrong with him. But I think I should spend some time with him for now. I can talk to Claude. It's been very busy lately. I don't want to create unnecessary troubles for myself. I understand. The assistant nodded obediently. I'll take care of it right away. As the assistant reached the door, she turned back and asked, Camille, do you need to confirm the time with Mr. Ch? Camille thought for a moment and replied, no need. Just go ahead and book it. He cares more about our wedding anniversary than I do. Even if he suddenly has something to do, he'll cancel it to accompany me. Okay? Understood. That evening, Camille returned home from work. As she pushed open my bedroom door, she said, get ready for tomorrow afternoon. We're going out for dinner. I've already made a reservation. What are we eating? Isn't tomorrow our wedding anniversary? So what? What does that have to do with me? Camille's expression changed instantly, and she snapped angrily. Carl, I've already made concessions. Don't push your luck. That's not what I meant. It's good that you know you were wrong. No, I mean, since we're getting divorced, does it really matter whether we celebrate our anniversary or not? Camille was left speechless. What did you say? Camille even thought she might be hearing things because she was so busy and tired. She never imagined that Carl, who had once loved her so deeply, would say something so cold. She knew that Carl had gotten upset in the past, but as the assistant had said, it would be fine after a few is time. However, for some reason, he wasn't budging. Lin Shit-on-ji felt frustrated, angry, and even a bit at a loss. I don't want to say it twice. If there's nothing else, you can go back to your room, I said. Camille bit her lip. Carl, are you sure you don't want to celebrate the anniversary? Absolutely. You used to want to celebrate every time. Have you forgotten? Forgotten long ago. I was now 18-year-old Carl and honestly didn't remember. So it wasn't really a lie, right? I don't believe you. I looked at Camille, the confused expression slowly forming on my face. Believe it or not, I waved my hand dismissively, wrapping myself in the blanket. Camille and I were at an impasse. After a long pause, she sighed helplessly. I know you're still holding your breath, and I know you care more about the anniversary than I do. I won't hold it against you. Tomorrow night at 8, the usual place. I'll be waiting for you. After saying that, Camille laughed. I turned over. What nonsense. The next day, I arrived at the gathering room and sat down slowly after exchanging greetings with old classmates. Looking at the unfamiliar faces, I deeply understood the meaning of the saying, time is a killer. Some had become sloppy, some had become influential, and some had become hypocritical. Only Dana seemed to match my memories of her. However, the youthful look on her face had completely faded. Her previously chubby baby face had narrowed, giving her a mature and elegant vibe. Carl, I heard you were so busy you ended up in the hospital. No matter what, your health is the most important thing. The class monitor raised a glass to me. It seemed they didn't know that 25-year-old Carl had developed depression due to his relationship troubles. I chuckled and raised my glass in return. I'll be out soon. Where's Camille? Dana paused in her action. The class monitor didn't notice Dana's reaction and continued chatting. Back when you first got married, you couldn't wait to introduce her to us. She was so precious to you. It was all sweetening. I thanked my partner who said I wasn't romantic enough when I got home. She's busy lately. I scratched my head, feeling angry again. That dog. I used to open my heart to her, and she put a green hat on me. Come on, you just got out of the hospital. Have some more egg. The class monitor scooped some egg custard into my bowl. Dana shot a glance at me and said, he's allergic to eggs. Then she picked up a piece of meat and said, try this instead. The atmosphere became awkward for a moment. I glanced at Dana. Even Camille didn't know about my egg allergy. I was curious where Dana had learned it. Dana realized she had stared for too long and wanted to explain, but when the words came to her lips, so she froze like a tape stuck in rewind. It was Dante who came to the rescue. Our class flower is really attentive. I mentioned Carl's allergy before, and she actually remembered. Everyone laughed along, but their smiles clearly changed. As the glasses clinked, I couldn't help but glance at Dana again, and she happened to be looking back at me. Our eyes met, and she quickly averted her gaze. Her expression remained calm and stable, but I suddenly noticed her ears were red. Halfway through the meal, I received a call from Camille. "Where are you?" Just those two words were filled with warning. I was tipsy and blurted out, "Drinking," then hung up the phone. "Is Camille urging you to go back?" The class monitor teased. "You didn't bring Camille with you this time? She must be unhappy." "If she's unhappy, so be it. What does she matter?" I retorted, downing another glass. The class monitor's expression changed. "You and Camille." I was so drunk that I almost spilled the beans about my situation with Camille. Luckily, Dana was quick and pressed down on my glass. "Carl, you've had enough." Dana interrupted my conversation with the class monitor, glancing at her watch. "Why don't we wrap it up for today? Everyone's had too much to drink. And Carl just got out of the hospital. It's not good for his stomach to keep drinking." "Oh, right. You're so thoughtful. We didn't think of that." The class monitor nodded repeatedly. "Dante?" "Sure. I'll take Carl home first." "I'll take Carl," Dana said lightly. "Dante's going in the opposite direction. I'm going that way anyway. But he's a big guy and drunk. You won't manage him, will you?" "I'll be fine. When we get to his house, I'll call Camille for help." "Okay then. Take it slow on the road." I was then stuffed into Dana's car. I leaned drowsily against the passenger seat while soft music played Dana's favorite. She turned the air conditioning up a few degrees and draped her jacket over me. "Lie still. Don't move." I looked at Dana's face and couldn't help but wonder, when did she become so nice to me? Just before I transitioned into 25-year-old Carl, I quarreled with Dana, who was my desk mate. What had we fought about back then? I thought back. All right. I had told her my ideal type was a sophisticated beauty. She asked me, "What about someone like me?" "You have a baby face. Cuties like you are my type." Her expression had darkened suddenly, turning cold. "Oh. Now, back to the present." Dana waved at me. "What are you thinking about?" "You're staring at me without moving." I turned my head to look out the window. Nothing. All the way home, Dana and I hardly spoke. I gazed out at the passing traffic and said to her, "You've changed." "What?" Dana didn't catch on. "You used to be so sweet and lovable. I didn't expect you to become so mature." Dana paused. "Let me know if you need any adjustments or further assistance." She paused for a moment and then smiled softly. "Your tone today is quite reminiscent of when we were 18. I leaned against the car window. Bye back to Dana, and remained silent. Dana drove me home. "Do you really not want me to walk you up?" Dana asked as she supported me. "No. It's fine. You should head back. Maybe you should call Camille and have her come down to get you?" "No need." I smiled. "Look, I'm already clear-headed." "Well, okay then." Dana got into the car and rolled down the window. "I'm leaving now." "Yeah, drive safely." "Got it." Dana lowered her gaze and didn't start the car. She paused and suddenly called out to me, "Carl, are you doing okay?" I put my hands in my pockets and thought for a moment before responding. "How about you?" According to Dante, I married young right after graduation. Not long after getting married, Dana flew to Australia, and she was back this year for some business. We just happened to have a reunion after everything was settled, but I remember Dana clearly saying she was a homebody. Her future plans were to take a local civil service exam. She didn't like going abroad and wouldn't do it. The current Dana is so different from my impression of her. It's like she's a completely different person. Dana gazed at me intently. Her lips moved, but after a long time, all she could muster was a distance-keeping remark. "Go on up. Don't keep your wife waiting." In the end, Dana and I didn't continue our conversation. Her last sentence seemed to serve as a reminder to herself that I already had a wife. Then she needed to be mindful of that. She needed to understand what shouldn't be said. I turned the door knob and found Camille sitting on the sofa. The living room was dark, and the sudden appearance of her shadow startled me. "Why didn't you turn on the lights?" I asked, somewhat annoyed. As I flipped the switch, Camille turned her face to glance at me. "It's our anniversary today. And you didn't come. Didn't I say yesterday that I wouldn't come?" I took off my coat and hung it on the rack. "There's nothing to commemorate in our marriage. Besides, we're getting a divorce soon. We had planned to do it right after I was discharged, but things have been delayed. Let's aim for tomorrow instead. Do you have time? Or can you carve out some time? I'm really anxious and don't want to drag this out any longer." "Do you know what you're saying?" Camille frowned. "Do you realize how hurtful those words are? I'm being serious." We both looked down on each other now. "So don't talk to me about hurt feelings. That's just ridiculous." I laughed lightly and went to the master bedroom to sort out my clothes from the closet, packing them into a suitcase. "What are you doing?" Camille rushed into the room, grabbing my clothes. "Can't you tell?" I shook her hand off. "I'm packing my things. After I go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, I won't be coming back." Camille clenched her fists. "Are you still mad at me?" Camille, enough already. If you say a couple of words, I'll take it as a joke. But if you keep going, it's just annoying." "What do you mean by that?" I sighed softly. "Forget it. Since you want to play dead, let's put everything on the table. I want a divorce." "Yeah, it's because I'm angry. But you know what I'm angry about. Please use your brain for a second. You roll around with someone else and then act all high and mighty, blaming me for not being understanding and generous. But you never complained before. You've always handled it well. Even when you were angry, you would self-regulate. Isn't that right? What's wrong with you this time?" "Carl, oh Carl, do you really want to live so humbly?" "I'm actually fine. I just don't want to be a pushover anymore. I'm not serving you anymore." I dragged my suitcase toward the door. "Carl, come back," Camille shouted at me. She strode up to me. "Did you drink today? Who brought you back? What does that have to do with you?" "So, what if it was?" Camille took a deep breath. "Are you using Dana to make me jealous? Do I need to?" I laughed at that. I really wanted to open her head and see if there was anything but water inside. "I don't know what's going on with you. I feel like I've been patient enough. I waited for you in the restaurant for a long time, but you never showed up. And now you tell me that you were with Dana at night. And it's all unclear. Did you even think of me, Carl?" I felt a wave of discomfort wash over me. "Did you think of me when you were getting cozy with Claude? What? So it's okay for you to spend the night at another man's place, but I can try it in another woman's car? Camille, you can't be so double-standard." Camille's eyes gradually turned red. She scoffed a couple of times and retorted, "Are you sure you want to talk to me like this? Are you a god?" I replied disdainfully. Camille bit her lip. "It was just a trip to the hospital. I admit I shouldn't have slept with someone else, but you haven't done anything wrong either. I've been very patient with you. I even canceled work for you. But what about you? How have you treated me?" After saying that, Camille collapsed onto the sofa and, with a hoarse voice, asked me, "Carl, can you wake up? If it were the past, you should have apologized to me and promised never to lose your temper at me again. I'm really exhausted with how you're acting now." I suddenly got angry. "Camille, do you really not understand why we've come to this point? You've been ambiguous with others, flirting and sleeping with them, and then blame everything on me. Do you have no shame? I used to love you, putting up with all the grievances. But I'm not that lovesick Carl anymore. Do you dare to try and brainwash me again?" Camille stared blankly as I shouted at her. I continued, "For a woman like you who flirts around and doesn't know how to love herself, whoever wants you can have you. As for me, Carl, I don't want you anymore. Come with me to get a divorce tomorrow." After saying that, I dragged my suitcase away. A dark street was left with just me. I had nowhere to go, so I went to a hotel to sleep for the night. The next day, I got up early, ready to find Camille to handle the divorce paperwork. On the way, I ran into Dante. He insisted on treating me to a bowl of noodles. Dante slurped up some noodles and suddenly asked, "Why are you coming out of a hotel this early? Didn't Dana drop you off at home last night?" "She did drop me off, but..." I paused and took a sip of soup. "It's a long story." I summarized quickly. "I'm planning to divorce Camille." Dante was so surprised that he choked on a noodle. He looked at me in disbelief. "Wait. Everything was fine before." "It's not that sudden. Our relationship has already fallen apart. Camille is with someone else now." I sighed. "Before, I liked Camille so much that I couldn't let go, but now it's different. I have no feelings for her anymore." Dante was stunned for a while, trying to digest this shocking news. "You spent quite a bit on that house when you bought it, and Camille loves luxury decor, so you put a lot of effort into it. Not to mention, you need to get the property certificate back. The house is mine." I was confused. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" "So Camille is living in my house and calling it hers. I ran away for nothing? She has to move out." I regretted it so much I slapped my thigh. But then again, Dante squinted his eyes, smirking. "Doesn't this give Dana a chance?" "Dana? What did Dante mean by that? Why are we talking about her?" I asked. "Don't you know?" "TSK. You shouldn't be this clueless." Dante licked his tongue. "Didn't she confess to you?" "Confess? When did that happen?" I didn't know anything about it. I was completely lost. "She confessed back in school. Everyone knew about it." "She confessed back then?" "I just time traveled from when I was in school. How could I not know if she confessed?" "When exactly was this confession?" I asked. "I can't remember clearly. Maybe junior year. One morning we took graduation photos, and in the afternoon we had a half-day break. Didn't she invite you out for hot pot?" We all heard it. I remembered. "That was when I talked to Dana about my ideal type. And that's when we fell out. But she never said anything about confessing when she invited me for hot pot." "You guys must be guessing." "Can't be." Dante shook his finger. "The day before. You were sick and didn't come to class. In class, we played Truth or Dare, and she said it out loud." "Didn't she confess in the end?" "You look like you don't know anything." I coughed a couple of times to cover my embarrassment. I suddenly remembered the egg custard incident from the party last night. So I asked Dante. "It wasn't you who told her I'm allergic to eggs?" "I only mentioned it to help her out. I didn't even know you were allergic." On the way back, I kept thinking about what Dante had told me. "Dana really cared about you. Everyone noticed back in school. Only you, focusing solely on your study, treated her kindness like a brotherly bond. Do you remember, in sophomore year, when you were seated next to her? I was sitting behind you. Every day, I brought you breakfast, and you were so touched that you called me bro, but it was actually all from Dana. Also, during the sports meet, when you ran 1,000 meters, everyone else had their girlfriends handing them water, and you only had a girl from the next class. That was also Dana's doing. To be honest, I used to like her and wanted to confess, but she didn't say anything. She just looked at you from a distance, and I understood. But in the end, that was a long time ago. Feelings change. Do you think she's putting up with the pressure to get married at her age just for nothing?" Dante poked at his chest. "Isn't it because there's someone living here?" I returned home, deep in thought. As soon as I walked in, I saw Camille drinking milk and scrolling through her phone. Hearing the noise at the door. "Are you done being angry? I'm here to find you to get a divorce and to take back my house," I said. Upon hearing that, Camille became agitated. She slammed her phone on the table. "Are you done? If you have the guts, just go through with it." "Huh? Aren't I here to get a divorce?" I scratched my head. "Is it you who's gone crazy? Or am I crazy? Why are we not on the same wavelength?" "You..." Camille gritted her teeth in anger. She nodded and mocked. Oh, so you want a divorce? Then go." I smiled. Camille thought her words would intimidate me. But when she realized I didn't care, She became even more upset. Carl, don't regret it. I won't regret it at all. I successfully completed the divorce paperwork with Camille. As we exited the civil affairs office, she strutted away. I can't wait to see how long you can hold out. Thanks for the well wishes. I hope we never see each other again, I replied, smiling widely. Camille scowled in disgust. Just keep pretending. Oh right. There's one more thing. I suddenly remembered. Were you regretting it already after just finishing the divorce? Camille scoffed. Not really. I want you to return my house. Camille's face turned green upon hearing this. You keep saying it's your house. I actually took it as your property. But the things that belong to me, I will ultimately get back. A gentle breeze brushed through Camille's hair as she stared at me for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Of course, it's mine. Are you determined to play this hardball? What if I say yes? Have you considered what you would do if you regret it someday? My patience was wearing thin. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to stay calm. I told you before. I won't regret it. The biggest regret of my life is marrying you. Even if you regret it, I won't regret it either. Take the house if you want. Camille left the civil affairs office for her company. All morning, she seemed distracted and inexplicably irritable. After scolding a few employees, she leaned back on the sofa in her office and closed her eyes to rest. I heard you're in a bad mood today, unsnapping at everyone. Enid pushed open the office door and walked over with a smile. What brings you here? I was going to ask you to go shopping, but when I got to the office, I heard you yelled at a bunch of people. Did you have a fight with Carl? Don't mention him. Just hearing his name annoys me. Really? Did you two actually fight? We're getting a divorce. You brought it up? He did. Enid's eyes widened. Serious? He dumped you? It was so noisy. Do I really need to emphasize that? Camille rubbed her temple. What happened? You've got to tell me. A few days ago, I got drunk and slept with Claude, but it wasn't intentional. I apologize, thinking it would smooth things over, but he wouldn't let it go. He insisted on a divorce and even called me a broken shoe. He's the unreasonable one. Well, how do I put this? It's hard to judge. Let's not discuss this. I think, although what you did was a bit stiff, he loves you so much that it shouldn't have come to divorce. How would I know? Maybe he's just angry. You know how men are. If their woman is with someone else, they feel embarrassed, but it'll pass in a few days. Even if that's the case, he shouldn't get a divorce. Maybe this time he's really hurt. Oh well, you could just lower your stance and coax him a bit. If you talk things out. Talk things out? Enid sounded a bit uncertain. Maybe others can't. But since Carl is so into you, he should be able to. Camille shot her a glance. We'll see about that. The phone on the table kept vibrating. I leaned on the bar in the living room, eating while checking the updates in my high school class group. Nobody had been chatting before, but ever since the reunion yesterday, everyone opened up. I spotted Dana's name among the contact, in someone's casual mention. She admitted she hadn't been feeling well and had a high fever after getting home yesterday. My heart sank. Almost immediately, I private messaged her, "Is your fever down?" Dana replied quickly, "Much better. Thanks for your concern." I thought for a moment, "Have you eaten?" "No appetite." "Didn't eat." After a 3-second pause, I said, "I want to come see you." Just as I said that, I felt it could be misinterpreted. So I deleted it and erased, "I'll bring you some medicine and Connie." The other side displayed typing for quite a while, and after several repeats. After getting her reply, I tittied up and headed out. Along the way, Dante's words started echoing in my mind again. I wasn't sure how I felt about Dana. But strangely, I stubbornly wanted to hear the answer from her own mouth. Because I always felt that if Dana really couldn't forget me, then my initial feelings for her, which I had suppressed because she once said she viewed me as a friend, made me look ridiculous for later convincing myself that I liked fair-skinned, beautiful, long-legged intellectual women. Even though my feelings for Dana were still unclear, I couldn't let go of them. I arrived at Dana's current address based on the location she provided. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I turned the doorknob and found it unlocked. Dana? I called tentatively. I'm coming in. Following the hallway, I walked into the living room. It was empty, so I pushed open the bedroom door. Dana was leaning against the bed, coughing. I'm here. She smiled weakly at me. Yeah, I'm here. I placed the commie on a small table beside her. Eat something first, then take your medicine. Okay? Dana got out of bed, and I put a cushion on the chair for her to sit on. She obediently drank the commie in silence. I sat beside her, unsure how to start a conversation. After a few spoonfuls, Dana suddenly said, I heard it all from Dante. What do you want to ask me? Dana weakly curled her lips, showing a hint of a smile. I came with the intention of asking everything, but now that I'm about to ask, I can't get the words out. Seeing my expression, Dana explained, my feelings for you are my own business. You don't have to feel burdened. I'm not trying to blame you. I know. I just want to tell you. Not to let my feelings disrupt your plan. Today, Dana seemed more proactive and genuine compared to yesterday. Yesterday, she clearly made an effort to maintain her distance and even brought up Camille to restrain herself. But now, it seemed she had heard about my divorce. Dana seemed to sense my thoughts and blinked. I have my own motives too. And I didn't point it out. Let's go out for a walk, Dana suddenly suggested. But you're still sick. It's fine. I want to go out with you. Okay, saying we were going out was really just a stroll in the park. But Dana told me she enjoyed it. I walked with her, stopping and chatting for quite a while. Memories seemed to return. And those beautiful moments felt like just yesterday. As we were preparing to head back, I ran into Enid, who was out walking her dog. Carl. Enid recognized me from afar and hurried over. It's really you. You're so shameless. Just got divorced and now you're chasing after girls? Who are you? I asked. Don't you remember me? Enid pointed at herself, puzzled. I shook my head. You're angry at Camille, so you're pretending not to know me. Right? What are you talking about? I don't understand. If Camille sent you over here, tell her to stop bothering me, or I'll definitely make her regret it. I grabbed Dana's hand. Let's go. Hey. Enid blocked my path. You really don't remember me? You said you'd love and support her forever. I even threw flowers for you too. Also, do you remember why you had your first argument with Camille? Claude invited her to dinner. And when you picked up the phone, you even joked about him getting struck by lightning afterward. When I brought it up, you scolded me too. And there was that time when Camille forgot your birthday. A client was difficult to deal with, so she came home late. You were waiting to cut the cake with her, but she accidentally knocked the cake over and said she was a bit tired, so she didn't need to spend time with you. You ended up arguing with her. Oh, and remember that time you were at the mall? Camille was busy messaging clients, and when you asked what you wanted to eat, you ordered her favorite spicy boiled fish, and she blew up, saying she was feeling hot lately and didn't want anything spicy. There are so many more things you don't remember. I used to envy Camille for having your undivided attention. But then she told me you were getting a divorce. Did you really forget everything? You even remember that you loved her? Enid's words echoed in my head repeatedly. You used to love her. You said you wouldn't change. She just made a small mistake. Try to understand and forgive her. How could you divorce her? Clearly, you loved her so much. She actually has feelings for you too. Carl, why not remarry her? I know you love her. You love her. You love Camille. Carl, don't you remember? My head hurt. I hugged my head, feeling dizzy. Carl, what's wrong? Dana said, leaning over to support me with concern. Wow, Carl looks so pale. I just said a couple of things, and now he's in such pain. Enid blinked and, sensing something was off, hurriedly ran away. My head hurts. I shook my head vigorously a couple of times. Sit down for a bit. Dana helped me to a bench. Are you okay? Your face is so white. I took a moment to catch my breath and replied. I'm fine. Not really. If you feel unwell, You should go to the hospital. Don't push yourself. I'm okay. I just remembered some things. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling utterly drained, and looked up at the clear blue sky. Really, I remembered a lot. Enid handed her pet dog over to the butler and rushed to Camille's place. What are you doing here again? Camille, tell me. Do you think Carl divorced you because he forgot you? Are you out of your mind? I'm serious. I ran into Carl while walking the dog today. He was with Dana. And when I greeted him, guess what? He didn't remember me at all. I mentioned some of your past. And Carl started saying his head hurt. Hey, didn't you say Carl was in the hospital before? Could it be that he hurt his head during that time and lost his memory? How is that possible? He cut his wrist, not his brain. I don't know, but I'm sure he doesn't remember us. That makes things easier. You can take him to the hospital for treatment, and once he remembers you, you won't even have to beg or coax him. He'll come looking for you to remarry. Camille's eyes brightened at this. Then, I'll give it a try. After dropping Dana off, I returned home. Camille called me several times, asking where I was, but I didn't reply and blocked all her contact information instead. That evening, just as I was about to head downstairs to find Dante for a meal, I saw Camille waiting for me at the door. Carl, I've nothing to discuss with you. We're already divorced. And I have no relationship with you now. So stop bothering me. Listen to me. We're not really divorced. The one who wanted a divorce isn't the real you. I heard from Enid that you lost your memory. Right? You don't remember me. Isn't it? That's okay. I'm not mad anymore. Let's go to the hospital. I'll help you get better, and then we can remarry. How about that? I don't need that. I brushed past Camille. Camille grabbed my arm. Carl, once you remember everything, you'll definitely want to remarry. I know you love me. You just don't remember me right now. I shook off Camille's hand. I've remembered everything. You remembered? Camille, surprised, quickly regained her arrogance. She laughed proudly. So when are we getting remarried? Carl, since you remember everything, you should recall how you treated me before. Let me give you a heads up, I won't easily forgive you. It depends on your sincerity. I turned to look at Camille. Never had she appeared more ridiculous and pathetic than now. Camille, while my memory has returned, the pain remains. I said disdainfully. What kind of daydream are you having to think I'd remarry you? Camille's expression was truly something to behold. The twisted look on her face revealed her emotions completely. She stared at me for a long time before stumbling through the most clutch line. You dare talk to me like that? But even as she spoke, her own confidence wavered. Carl, have you really not remembered everything? Carl, you're lying to me. Aren't you? I know you love me. You wouldn't say such things to me. Carl, don't leave yet. Come with me to the hospital. Let's get you better. Carl, don't go. Carl, come back. Camille gradually fell apart, screaming in a desperate attempt to keep me with her using the lowest of tactics. But things had changed. The old me might have paused for her, but not anymore. Ignoring her constant shouting, I walked toward the light. After this incident, Camille's demeanor changed dramatically. Perhaps she realized that we couldn't go back. But occasionally, after getting drunk, she would linger downstairs for a long time, staring up at my apartment. I didn't know what feelings she harbored for me. Perhaps over time she had grown accustomed to me and found it hard to let go. Or maybe, even if she didn't like me, she felt lonely and helpless upon realizing I had moved away, convincing herself how deeply she felt for me. But only I knew that one-sided feelings, whether from the past me or from Camille now, were not love, they were mere obsession. Love requires nurturing and care. At least, if Camille and Dana were to choose between me, I would choose Dana without hesitation. But setting ideals aside and facing reality, I take it one step at a time. I sincerely hope for a future that is bright and fulfilling, with love that is satisfying and a life that is free.